Welcome back to the Kicks and Picks podcast. Coach Steve here with Nick and Scotty. We're on a run. It's got to be like 4 or 5 episodes in a row. Full crew assembled. Another, we'll say, non-losing week as we went 500, 5-5, but up just about a tenth of a unit. So a positive week on the sheet overall. Any positive is better than a negative at this point. That moves our season total to 118, 111, and 10. Just 0.3 of a unit down. We are almost back to even money. And 2024 has been good to us, 35, 19, and 5. And also this past week, we just wrapped up the Champions League here on Wednesday, 5-4 for the Champions League episode. So trending in the right direction still. Obviously, we want to grow on that 5-5. We don't want to be at that 5-5 every week, but we'll take it better than losing week. So, guys, how you feeling after you guys gave out some winners in the Champions League? And Nick, you had a pretty good week overall on the locks last weekend as well.
Yeah, feeling good, man. You said it. We have not had a losing week in 2024. That is not a coincidence. Like you said, that we've all been back together as a squad. So I think that goes hand in hand. Champions League, like rough ending. But the caveat there is we made these picks like prior to last week's game. So today's games especially hit us hard because there weren't really good lines out. We didn't really give picks out, but I don't want to say that we gave winners either. So we're going to count those as losses, but feeling good. So shout out to us.
And in our defense, the game that we got wrong today was a Portuguese team upsetting Arsenal. And we are very open about the fact that we do not do well with Portuguese teams. So
fact.
Can't take too much blame on that one.
And I have to say,
pretty solid overall. I mean, usually we kick into gear with Champions League. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the fact that it gives us more games to look at against decent competition. So you usually know where the top tier teams are going to be, playing come weekend time. So hopefully that trend continues.
Yeah, and if you did listen to that, the other game, the Napoli-Barca game, I think we didn't really give out a pick. I tweeted one out today that I counted as a loss, but shout out Napoli for having a new manager as of 2 days ago and having 0 cards in a game against Barcelona. I feel like that's the miracle of the season. Give them the Scudetto back to back because shout out them.
Yeah, I have to say, I didn't get to watch much of last week's Champions League matches because I was working, but I had some time off this week and I got to watch it. Is it me or is they're not that exciting, these round of 16 matches? It's so everybody's playing so tight not to concede that you don't get a lot of great attacking football. The domestic stuff on the weekend is so much more entertaining currently.
I think my take on that, Scotty, I'd love to know if you agree, is taking away the away goals rule has really just kind of flipped this competition on its head at this stage. And nobody wants to, whether they're home or away, just nobody wants to be at a disadvantage. So I feel like teams aren't taking advantage of that home field just the same way that the opposing teams aren't scared of it. I don't know. It's just a lot of unders. I think we had maybe 2 overs in 8 games, if that.
Yeah. And I think the other part of it too is the draw was very, we didn't really get any
styles
matchups.
Weren't there. Yeah.
Yeah. We had City and Copenhagen and Napoli versus Barcelona was probably one of the closer matchups that we got. And usually when you're, a heavy underdog, you like to try to pack it in and at least, try and make the second leg somewhere something can, fluky can happen and you can advance on a bounce that just goes your way. So I think that kind of also played into it. Usually there's still 1 or 2 groups that'll have a solid team that sneaks in as the second place, qualifier. And that'll give you a juicy matchup where you're getting a City versus Bayern. Well, it would never be City, but it'd be a, Bayern versus Barcelona or Arsenal, Barcelona.
Yeah. You combine 2 trash teams.
That. Yeah. Right. But that just didn't happen this year. We kind of got chalky matchups. And, when we did our episode, Nick, we were just trying to find, creative ways to get good value because if you're trying to just take one team, money line or draw no bet, there was really no value there.
100%.
Yeah, I agree too. I think Nick makes a great point. No away goals rule. It takes the onus off of scoring when you're on the road and you can pack it in the first leg, especially if you're the underdog and just try to play for that. Go, 0-0, 1-1, and go to the second leg at home and then hopefully do better. Arsenal probably they lost 1-0 today, but they probably don't feel too terrible about losing 1-0 at Porto because they could go and win 2-0 next leg at home and they're fine, right? So I do think part of it plays into that. City doesn't have to go all out and risk themselves too much at Copenhagen last week, and they give up a goal, and then they found a second. They got out there 2-1, right? And that's that first leg. So like they're feeling good. I agree.
I think it's 3.
If was it did they get the they might have
I
gotten
think
the
so.
third.
Yeah.
The away goal rule, I think it definitely added some more drama to it. Yeah, like you didn't want to give up that away goal if you were the home team first, and if you were the away team first, you're going to go for that away goal because it's so much more valuable. Because even if you lose by a goal on the road, then you only need like a 1-0 win at home or something. And I could just say over the past couple of years, I've seen it too, watching Roma closely, like the way Jose Mourinho approached those matches in Europe. It was just pack it in, go to the Olympic, go try to win 1-0, and then you're through. And it worked pretty well for him, winning a final, making another final. So I think it's kind of the same approach with some of these teams. And I think Sky's right. When you have the uneven matchups like we've had, it definitely takes away from the overall match play. And then, the on paper Barcelona-Napoli looks so good on paper, the Diego Maradona matchup, as people like to call it when they play each other. But, you tend to forget Napoli won the Scudetto last year. They're in 8th place now, right? And Barcelona's kind of like a very mediocre 3rd place for them by their standards, right? So like on name value wasn't as good as what you got on the pitch today.
And I think the other thing that's important to know, I mean, in the second round, there's not as much of this, but like the money factor for some of these teams, just to get one win or get one result or potentially even move on to the next round, like it certainly means a lot more. I mean, Copenhagen's a bad example. They got washed, but means a lot more to them, to a Lazio, to a Porto, to a Napoli than it does a Real or a Man City. So you're seeing these teams just try to maximize whatever they can at this point.
Yeah.
So it's been more chess than maybe we'd like to see at this point.
Yeah, good points. All right, let's move on to what we're looking at this weekend. Premier League has an almost full slate. There are a couple matches that aren't being played. They're postponed because it is the Carabao Cup final weekend, Scotty. It features your club, Liverpool, against Chelsea. Take 3, as you call it. It's a rematch of the 2022 final and the Carabao and FA Cups. The current odds for this one, Chelsea plus 210 on the money line, draw line plus 275, Liverpool plus 110. The over 2.5 is at minus 150, and the under 2.5 is at plus 115. Liverpool had a midweek match this week against Luton Town, won it. What was it? Was it 4-1 in the end?
Yep.
Yeah. Salah missed out. Nunez missed out. Will they be back for the weekend? And how are you feeling overall about Liverpool's chances as the favorites in this one?
Yeah, that kind of seems to be the theme for this matchup. Both Chelsea and Liverpool are arguably like the most injured side right now. And I take partial blame for that because I think 2 weeks ago we were talking about some of the more mundane matchups that we witnessed the weekend before. And I said it's probably because these teams, top tier teams, are getting healthy. And right as I said, that Liverpool kind of go through their own mini injury crisis. So it'll be interesting to see who gets healthy and who's ready. I think Nunez should be ready. He was subbed off on the weekend at halftime. Klopp never really mentioned whether there was a specific injury concern or not. And I think maybe not playing today was more of a precaution than anything. Salah just came back from injury this past weekend, but then, Jota picked up an injury in like the 20th minute. So Salah had to play 70 minutes when I think they were probably hoping to only play him for 30. So again, I don't think he played against Luton Town just as like a precaution. So my guess is at least one of those guys will be available, which means you'll have a attacking lineup of Diaz, Gakpo, and then insert Nunez or Salah. My guess is the other one will at least make the bench. Whether or not he gets used, they'll make the bench because if it goes to extra time, like they have in the previous 2 matchups, bringing someone on like that with, only needing 15 minutes and being able to take penalties is a huge boost. So that would be my guess. As for how I think this is going to go, look, we all know Chelsea struggles this season. Yeah, they had a great result against City on the weekend. I think that's, huge for maybe their morale a bit, but a lot of their issues are still there. They're still attacking challenged. Defensively, without Thiago Silva, I think, there's concerns, at least as far as how well their back line will perform. So I think I would lean towards Liverpool in this one. But for me, I think the curious part of this is like, is this a game that finishes in regulation, right? Do we see, Liverpool or potentially Chelsea win this in the first 90 minutes, or do we see this go to extra time or potentially penalties? Because there are odds for those, and maybe we can get into that a little bit. But I think that's probably where some of the like interesting long shot chances might be for this matchup.
Not even that long. I like them. So correct me if I'm wrong. The Carabao, which by the way, we're still waiting for them to sponsor the podcast
I know.
after 2 years. After
Second
learning
biggest
what
energy drink in Thailand.
and we're the second biggest soccer betting podcast in Thailand, so we should get that sponsorship. This is Chelsea's only chance at silverware. Is that correct?
I mean, yeah, assuming they don't make some sort of incredible run to win the Premier League, yeah, it's their only chance at a trophy this
Let's
season.
assume that that's not going to happen. So, I think I'm trying to make sense of the lines here, and I guess I said this last week when they were playing City, and I gave them absolutely no chance, and of course, City laid the eggiest of all fucking eggs. I'm trying to make a case for Chelsea. I think that it has to do a little bit with, like you said, maybe the fitness of Liverpool. Where's this taking place?
Wembley, so it's
neutral. Right, okay, neutral.
Yeah.
So Chelsea's only chance something. I mean, that's maybe they're kind of maybe sort of starting to resemble a little something under Poch. Maybe I don't even know if I could buy that as I'm saying it, but crazier things have happened. It's a final. The odds are way fucking closer than I thought they would be. These should be much more in line with how Chelsea were an underdog last week to City. Pool is scoring way too many goals. It doesn't seem to matter who is starting. It doesn't seem to matter who's playing where. But I don't know. I really don't know where to go with this one. I mean, I think, Scotty, you mentioned it, that the cool bets to make in this one are for a team to win in extra time or a team to win on penalties. And if I'm looking at those right now, Chelsea to win extra time is plus 1,500. Chelsea to win on penalties is plus 1,100. Pool extra time plus 1,200. Pool penalties plus 1,100. Bet all four of them. And if it goes to extra time, you just fucking, you made 6 units or 7 units.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems to be, that's the way I would go.
It's actually not a bad idea now that I hear it coming out of your mouth, because like my favorite bet, looking at the odds, I'm thinking Liverpool probably wins this match. I'm thinking plus 110 in regular time. It's not a bad bet at plus 110, but then as you put it that way, like you could even put, a full unit on Liverpool to win in 90 if you think they're going to win, and then sprinkle a half unit each on those extra time ones, and you're still making out pretty well if anybody goes to extra time or penalties. As long as Chelsea doesn't win in 90 minutes, you're making probably some decent money there. I do think Liverpool is the better team. I think they've showed it all along. I think the only reason they don't have the odds that City had is just City's got that kind of name appeal at this point after they've dominated England for so long and then won the Champions League last year. I think they get a little more respect on the books than Liverpool in a match like this. And maybe the injuries play into it too, that Scotty was talking about. But finals, anything can happen. You could get a fluky goal here, or Chelsea just really comes to play on the weekend and they can find a way to win. But anytime I'm seeing Liverpool at plus money, I like the number on them. I think they are the better team. The over-under is interesting because a lot of time in finals, teams play tighter, like we talked about in the Champions League, the way we were just talking about. So the over 2.5 to me at minus 150 seems a little inflated. I don't know if maybe it'll be different in this one, but sometimes it's hard to find 3 goals in a one-off final like this.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. This screams one. Maybe I just want it to be 1-1 because I'm looking at flashy odds, but it kind of feels like a 1-1 to me.
Yeah, I mean, up until the matchup between these two clubs in January, where Liverpool won 4-1, I think there'd been 5 straight draws, 1-0.
Yeah, it was more than that. I think wasn't it like 8 or something like that?
0-0 draws. Yeah. It was something crazy. So I think that's probably where this number is being so inflated from. And the interesting part, obviously, Liverpool with that big victory in January. Chelsea were missing Christopher Nkunku and Nicholas Jackson, the latter of which we kind of make fun of on this podcast for his finishing being maybe less than, but Nkunku for sure has the ability. He hasn't quite fit into this side quite yet. He's had obviously his own injury issues to start the season, but he did make a sub appearance against City, and I think there's a sense that maybe Poch is kind of building towards giving him his position back for the final, in which case you'd probably have a pretty strong Chelsea side for at least their front 5 or so players, right? You're probably going to have some combination of Sterling, who's been probably their best and most consistent forward this season, Conor Gallagher, who's been great, maybe one of their better players overall on the season, Nkunku, somewhere in that either false 9 or maybe they try to play him up top position, and then I would assume Palmer would play on the wing. not entirely sure, but Cole Palmer, again, underrated signing from City to start the season, but has arguably been one of their better finishers. So as far as the first four go for their forwards, that's as healthy as they've been all season, and it's pretty decent for Chelsea standards.
Mhm.
And then they have their midfield duo of Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, who are 200 million pounds in expenditure, haven't lived up to that price tag per se, but on their day are still very quality midfielders. And when you look at what Liverpool are going to have to offer, it's probably some combination of Alexis McAllister, Wataru Endo, and maybe Ryan Gravenberch. I don't think Soboslai is going to be available for this one, so they're going to have to roll with those three again, like they did against Luton Town. And I'm not trying to badmouth those guys. I think Endo has had a great season for Liverpool, considering how he's come in, and McAllister was probably the man of the match today against Luton Town. But it's not as tall of a task for Chelsea to maybe dominate possession with that front five or so, considering what Liverpool have to offer on their side. So I think it's going to come down to that. Liverpool's defense should be relatively ready. Robertson's been kind of playing back into form after coming off his shoulder injury. Van Dijk has been arguably the best he's been since he tore his ACL against Everton, 2.5 years ago. And then Connor Bradley, who's been replacing Trent Alexander-Arnold, has been, an absolute sensation for Liverpool. So Liverpool's defense should be good. They're missing Alisson, which sucks. There's a certain level of calmness that you have when you have a keeper of his quality. You have a little bit more calmness about defensive errors or mistakes or one-on-ones, because he somehow pulls those out time and time again. And plus, his distribution was usually in the top 10%, I would say, of goalkeepers, so he can usually start his own counters pretty quickly. So having him out, it's probably the biggest blow for Liverpool's defensive chances. So it'll be interesting. I think, like you said, Nick, bringing it all back full circle, 1-1 certainly seems like the most probable outcome. If I had to pick a winner in regulation, I think it would be probably Liverpool, just because they've just been playing better for the last 3 or 4 months. And although Chelsea do look finally healthy now, we've said it before, hey, maybe they're starting to put together in a potch, and then they kind of lay an egg. So
yeah,
maybe that's me reversed, or maybe that's me jinxing my club for the first time and not actually going for the reverse jinx. But that's kind of where
I mean, also
going.
how big of a letdown after this game? It's tough to have a letdown, I guess, in a final, but I don't know. Did they expend all their energy and skill against City, and now this is just going to be too much in back-to-back weeks?
Well, the good news is they don't play midweek. Liverpool had to play Liverpool were supposed to play Luton Town, this weekend, but obviously they had to move it because next weekend they have Europa, or next week they have FA Cup. The week after that they have Europa midweek, so they don't have the luxury that Chelsea has to move fixtures wherever they want. No. So Chelsea will have a full week of rest. Liverpool will have to kind of rally, but maybe to your point, Nick, too. Like, this is Chelsea's only chance at a trophy, and not for nothing, Liverpool have maybe their eyes on a bigger prize with the league, right, and potentially even Europa, also to consider. So that could be something where this is Chelsea's Super Bowl for the season, and Liverpool would be nice to get a trophy, just to make sure that Klopp gets one more before he leaves. But they certainly have at least two other opportunities where they're going to be favorites, if not three.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see how it plays out. A lot of things to think about. Definitely a lot of angles you can take betting this one. So hit us in the comments with your favorite bets and let us know what you're thinking for this one. Can Chelsea pull the upset, or is Pool the betting favorite for a reason? Will they get it done in regular time, extra time, penalties? Let us know. With that, we'll move on to Serie A. The big matchup this weekend is going to be a head-to-head between third place Milan, fourth place Atalanta. Milan's on 52 points, Atalanta on 45 with a match in hand. So a win for Atalanta in this one can really get them within striking distance of top three, which would have been unthought of just probably a few weeks ago. They've been in a really good run of form. Just to give you the overall Serie A table, because we talked about how tight it is all season. Inter running away now on 63 points. In first place, Juve second with 54, Milan 52. Then, as I mentioned, Atalanta match in hand 45 points. Then it's Bologna also on 45, Roma on 41, Fiorentina on 38, Lazio 37 points. They have a match in hand. Napoli 36 points with a match in hand, and Torino 10th on 36 points with a match in hand. Torino and Lazio actually go head to head tomorrow on Thursday. So one of those two teams could jump as high as 7th. heading into the weekend. If Torino gets the win, they could jump away from 10th to 7th, which would be something as they head to Rome on Monday to face Roma. Could be 6 for 7 if they get the job done. So things tightening up. We've also got the big one, Fiorentina Lazio on the weekend. That could almost be a de facto like elimination match in some ways in the race for a top 4. But we're going to focus on this one in Milan. It's Atalanta and Milan. Betting lines on this one currently. Right now, Milan on the money line plus 130, Atalanta plus 180, draw line plus 240. Value on the draw, no bets as well. Milan minus 140, Atalanta plus 105. And if you want to take Atalanta plus a quarter goal, one of Nick's favorite bets is minus 130. Both teams to score minus 170. No surprises there probably for us as we watched a lot of Milan this year. Both teams to score no draw plus 135. Over 2.5 minus 135. Over 3 plus 125. And they've met twice this season already, and it's been Atalanta 2 wins head to head. They won in the Coppa Italia 2-1 and 3-2 winners in the reverse fixture in Bergamo. Nick, how do you see this one playing out? Because Atalanta has been playing really well lately. They enter a tough run of matches starting with this one. But I mean, you look at their recent form line. If you're on SofaScore, one of these apps, it's all green. They've been really rattling off a lot of wins. I want to get the exact form,
it's at
but
least
I'll
5.
let you start. Yeah.
Now so I do have a play in this game as one of my locks, so I'll save my heavy thoughts. But
Here, so I'll give you the number before you go. 7 straight wins, no losses in 10 for Atalanta.
Yeah, I mean that's just an absolutely insane run of form. I mean, like you said, they're coming into a little bit of a tougher portion of the schedule, so we're really going to see what they're made of. But how do you back a team? How do you not back a team that hasn't lost in 10? That's won 7 straight. And the thing that's impressed me a lot about Atalanta, we know they're going to score goals, right? I think they're the 3rd or 4th top scoring team in the league. That's certainly not a surprise. But the surprising part to me is their defense. They've only given up 23 goals. I mean, after Inter and Juve, I'm pretty sure that's 3rd. So,
yeah, it's
really
3rd.
impressive. Really impressive. That's not something I would have expected. Not that the defense always hasn't been adequate, but the fact that it's been a point of emphasis very clearly, and that for a team that plays so wide open and that has such an attacking threat, they really haven't had that issue on the back. So that's what's impressed me about this team. I think, man, that quarter goal spread is absolutely juicy. Minus 130, walking away with some money, even if there's a draw, but certainly could see them win this one outright. I wouldn't bet against it.
I'll ask you guys the question as the Serie A experts. So obviously we're looking at goals in this one. Nick just said, Jovic picking up a red card against Monza the week before, so won't be available to that. Does that impact Milan's attack at all? Does that cause any concerns, or do we think that they can pick up with any combination of Pulisic and Leao to kind of replace that?
So what I'll say is the issue for me is that it's a lot of games for Giroud in over the past 3 weeks. So they played midweek to Rennes last week. They did win that game 3-0. So if he can get some rest, I think that would be smart. He did play obviously last weekend. So if they don't rest Giroud, I definitely would be worried about where that goal scoring is going to come from.
Yeah, good point. They also play that Thursday midweek Europa League match, the return fixture against Rennes, and this time they do have to travel. Right, I believe they're in France for the second one, so that presents a little bit of an issue for them having to travel, of course. And I think with the 3-0 lead, maybe they do make a couple changes there. But good point about Jovic. He has been coming off the bench a lot in the league, but that takes away from your options off the bench in the league. And where's that goal coming from? But 2 high-scoring teams. I mean, Milan more than 2.5 goals in 8 out of 9. Atalanta more than 2.5 in 6 out of 7. Both teams scoring in 6 out of 8 for Milan, which is why that both teams to score number is probably so juicy at minus 170. Interesting one. And I mentioned this a lot with a lot of these big matchups. First team to score usually has an advantage a lot of the time. Milan scored first in 7 out of 9, Atalanta in 6 out of 6. So you consider Atalanta's on a 7-match win streak. In the last 6 of those wins, they've scored first, right? And especially here on the road in Milan, I think first goal would be huge for Atalanta. That gives them the best chance of winning. It's gonna be hard for them, I think, to come from behind on the road. in the San Siro, but I think if they get the first goal, all bets are off for Milan because, like you mentioned, are they getting 2 goals from? Right? Are they going to get it from Giroud, who's been playing heavy minutes? Is it going to be Pulisic? Is it going to be Leao? They're coming off a 4-2 loss against Monza, which was surprising. Cost us
Wait,
cost me a money line bet over
shout out
here.
though. 2 goals
Almost,
scored down a
almost,
man.
almost cost you a bet down a man after Jovic took that red. So it'll be interesting. I do think this will be an overtime match, though. It's definitely take the over 2.5, over 3. I think even if you take the over 3, you're at worst pushing this one. I don't see this one going under 3 goals.
Yeah. One thing I do want to shout out too before we go back to you, Scotty. I mean, Pulisic has been fucking awesome. He looked great last week down a man. I mean, for his first full season with the team, I think he's got like 6 goals and 7 assists, 6 goals, 5 assists. I don't know. He's did double digit goal contributions, and to have that, in February where he hasn't started every single game, I think that's really, really impressive.
Yeah, he was almost a hero too last weekend, right? Like it almost looked like he was going to steal or save the point for them before it kind of went awry 2 minutes later. Yeah, I mean, for me, Nick, like I was looking through some of the different lines because I don't want to steal anything from your locks, but something that's interesting given the fact that we think goals galore in this one. Both team totals over 1.5 are plus money. Over 1.5 for Milan is plus 110. Over 1.5 for Atalanta is plus 135. You could pick one, or honestly, you could pick both. Both teams are super capable of getting 2-3 goals a game. So, take both. If you hit both, then you win big. If you only hit one, you're still going to come away with plus money in some regards. So, that's kind of what I would be looking at, just as someone that appreciates the plus sign on some of my picks.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they're both plus money, honestly, because when you see both teams to score at minus 170, for them to expect neither team to be, expecting a second goal is kind of surprising to me. To see that at minus 170.
And I'll even go one further. The shortest goal scorer is Giroud at plus 175. That's a fat number. Take anybody else and they're plus 220 or better. So interesting.
Yeah. I'd even be curious to see goal or assist numbers when this gets closer, because like you mentioned, Pulisic, Nick, 7 goals, 6 assists, and I think 21 starts so far this season in the league. Not a bad option when you consider he's getting a goal or assist almost 50%, over 50% of the time that he starts.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot of good value lines here. If you really think there's goals coming, you can get pretty creative, pretty fast here. I mean, both teams to score in the first half is plus 255. Both teams to score in the second half is plus 165. I think that's probably where to go. Got to figure that if this game is close in any way, shape, or form, that both teams scoring in the second half is almost a lock. So yeah, there's certainly some cool value plays here if you want to get a little creative.
It should be a fun game.
Yeah. So me as a Roma fan, personally, obviously, I want Milan to win because Atalanta is the team Roma has a better chance of catching in the race for the top 4. Am I being jaded to think that Milan gets this done at home, Nick, or do you favor Milan in this one, or do you think Atalanta really can go on the road and get this done?
Listen, I've been on the Milan train pretty much all year. They were one of my longer shot picks to win the Scudetto. That's obviously not happening, but I think they've put together a solid year with a lot of new pieces. They're Scotty called it. They're Chances FC. They're in every game. They score a goal in just about every game. They score 2 goals in most games. So at home, they'll be feeling good after advancing. Very likely, I don't think they're going to give up 4 goals to Rennes. They might, but let's hope they don't do that. You can't. It's a toss-up game for me. It really is. And like I said, just the form that Atalanta's in, you have to bet them. I don't think it's wise to bet against them on a 7-game winning streak and on a 10-game unbeaten streak. I like Atalanta plus 1/4 of a goal. That would be my pick if I was taking a side here. But this has all the makings of what should be a good game.
Yeah, and I don't hate Scott's angle of both betting both sides to get over 1.5 goals. I think you hit one of those at least. I really do.
Definitely.
Looking at this, and then if you do like that, you probably like the over 2.5 or over 3, and you might have some value in the totals in this one. It is hard to pick a winner, in my opinion, because Atalanta's been in such great form. If Atalanta was in like so form heading into this one. I'm taking Milan all day at home, but Atalanta, the way they've been playing, like you mentioned, you can't bet against them straight up. It's very difficult to do that when teams unbeaten in 10 and winners of 7 straight, and really climbing the league table and putting pressure on the Bolognas, Romas, and the rest of the teams below them in the world in that push for fourth for sure. All right. I think that brings us to our locks of the week. Coming off that 5-5 week, guys, Scotty's going to kick us off in the Premier League. So what do you got, Scotty?
Yeah, I got my first one. I'm going to go back to my little favorite parlay. I found one that is a surefire lock. I'm taking the other two clubs in the title race in the Premier League, Arsenal and Man City, money line against their prospective opponents, Newcastle for Arsenal and Bournemouth for City. Arsenal right now, they're flying. I mean, they just lost to Porto, but before that, I think they had won games like 6-0, 5-0, 4-0 leading up to this. So their offense has certainly gelled. We know that their defense has really been their calling card all season long. I think they have the league's best defense right now. And at home, they've been, really, really strong. They've beaten Man City and Liverpool both at home already this season. On the flip side, Newcastle's away form has long been discussed on this podcast. They're just really not that great. They're having a little bit of a resurgence in the last couple of weeks, but haven't been the greatest form over the last 2 months and overall. So I think Arsenal have a pretty easy win at home against Newcastle this weekend. City, on the other hand, we know that they've been struggling a little bit. Barely got by. Who did they just beat yesterday? Drew Chelsea on the weekend. Just barely escaped a midweek game. That's bothering me. Hold on, I'm pulling this up now. Was it Crystal Palace? Brentford.
Who are we talking about?
Barely got past Brentford City on Tuesday, 1-0. So there's a little bit of a concern about them playing at Bournemouth, but I just don't see Chelsea dropping points on back-to-back weekends. I think much of their poor play has been down to a pretty lackluster attack. Obviously, just the one goal in each of those two matches. I think Haaland comes out with a bit of a vengeance. He's certainly healthy now, just trying to play back into form. And, when you have De Bruyne on your side, eventually the goals will come. So I think they get it back on track this weekend, take the parlay at -110, and it should be a virtual lock as far as I'm concerned.
All right. I'm going to the Bundesliga a couple times today. I'm going to start with my first one, and it is RB Leipzig plus a goal at Bayern Munich, which is -135 right now. Bayern's a mess. We've talked about it. It was announced that Thomas Tuchel would be out as manager at the end of the season, but he's staying on as a lame duck coach the rest of the way. They've lost 3 straight, including a shocker to Bochum last weekend. Meanwhile, Leipzig has gone 4 straight unbeaten.
Shocker to Lazio as well, Coach. I mean, we're gonna talk about that one.
The Lazio one too. Bochum was even more of a shocker. I think they conceded 3 and 3-2 loss.
Yeah, they did.
3-2. Losing to Lazio 1-0 without a shot on target in the Champions League the midweek before that. That was all started. All this was kind of like precipitated by that loss to Leverkusen, which kind of really gave Leverkusen the leg up in the title race. And now they face a Leipzig side who's 5th and need points to get into that top 4 for the Champions League return next year. And Leipzig's got 4 straight unbeaten head-to-head against Bayern, which I was surprised to see while I was doing my research for this one. I think at worst they keep this one close on the road in Bavaria. And I think they have a really good chance of getting the draw and cashing you at -135.
Yeah, I love it. I just I'll be upset once they're even more pissed off for the return leg with Lazio. So is what it
that
is.
I kind of help you with, my friend, but I think they are ripe for the picking for Leipzig.
No question. You have to fade him at this point. So love it. Love when Coach goes worldwide. I'm not doing that. I'm actually in Italy for all of my picks because the Serie A picks have been hot. Taking Napoli. I mentioned it. I gave him a little bit of a shout out at the beginning of the episode that they just fired their coach. Now on their 3rd coach of the season. The guy just started this week. He's also the head coach of the Slovakian national team. So doing double duty, trying to figure out what the hell Napoli's doing. But fortunately, they are traveling to Cagliari. They're -125 on the money line. I think, this is a spot they have to win. This is absolutely a must-win game. New manager. The team is healthy. Osimhen's back. Champions League behind them. They don't have to sweat that for a few weeks. Cagliari, they've just been getting bounced by absolutely everybody. So I think minus 125 is just a little too good. Napoli should take care of business.
The first nice thing we've said about Napoli. Well, I guess
In
we
a
kind of
long
gave them a
time.
little bit of credit for not getting yellow cards at the top of the podcast. But
Incredible.
other than that, this is actually a glowing podcast for Napoli in our world.
Yeah, it is.
All right, I will go on to my next lock, second lock of the weekend. I'm taking Manchester money line and over 1.5 versus Fulham. United right now are on fire. Maybe outside of Arsenal, team that is in most form in the league. Winners of 5 straight, all 5 of those games going over 2.5. So the goals should certainly be there. Fulham, we know, are more than capable of scoring themselves, but honestly, I'm really shocked if United drop points at Fulham at home this weekend. Fulham have just one road win all season long, which is way back August 12th against Everton. So their road form has been extremely bad, probably worse than Newcastle's. And even recently, they've conceded 16 goals in their last 6 away matches. So I think United get a comfortable win at home, continue their run, and then we'll see where that gets them, because I think there's a Manchester derby coming up in the not so distant future.
Does Anthony have a goal yet?
No, I don't even know if he plays.
Yeah.
All right, as promised, I'm going back to the Bundesliga for my second pick of the weekend. It is Werder Bremen and over 1.5 goals versus Darmstadt at even money. Bremen enters this one in fine form, having won 4 or 5 in the league, and they're 4-1-1 since the 2024 restart. Conversely, Darmstadt remains winless in their last 16 and sit bottom of the table. They did beat Bremen back in October 4-2 when they won their first Bundesliga match of the season. They won back-to-back matches after that one and then haven't won since. There are only 2 wins of the season. I like Bremen to score multiple goals and yet again, but this time take care of business instead of losing on the, I think they take care of it at home.
Nick, at what point do we change Coach's name from Coach Worldwide to just Coach Bundesliga?
Yeah, no, it's not really worldwide anymore. He is stuck in Germany. He is thriving.
I watch it casually once in a while just because it's on, and then I have bets there. But like, I find value where I don't find value in the other leagues sometimes. Yeah. I just feel like it's there. And the Stuttgart one last week, we sweated it out, but the value was there on our pod lock. It's just there.
Is that another?
I'm even more impressed because
with a red card. Didn't
we won with Stuttgart having a red, and they had to win the match after it was leveled by Darmstadt of all teams 1-1. They got the winner, or they went up 2-0, and Darmstadt got a garbage goal, but 2 of those goals happened with a red card.
So we got 2 picks with red cards last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, unreal. Now, the impressive thing about what you're doing in Bundesliga, Coach, is you're getting winners without having to take like over 3.5, because usually like at this point in the season, you got to hope for a 4-goal game, and that's the way I used to bet the league, but we're evolving here, so well done. I'm taking our featured game. I probably should have started off with it, but I think you guys probably know where I'm going. It's over 2.5. It's minus 135. Chances FC meets Chances FC Junior. Did give Atalanta credit for their defense, but Milan should have a lot of the ball, should create a lot of chances. The fact of the matter is, at minus 135, this line is just incorrect. We've already seen 2 overs between both of these teams this year. To me, this is a minus 160, minus 155 that we're getting at minus 135. So I would be very, very shocked if we didn't see 2-1. You guys talked about it. Team totals are in play. Goal scorers are in play. This should be pretty straightforward.
What concern do you have that this might be a trap line, Nick?
Exhaustion, maybe, from Milan. Magnan has a great game. I don't know. It's always possible, but the both teams independently have been good for us this season for overs, and both teams, when they played each other, have been good for overs. So I think since the line is so playable for what it is, I just have to take it.
I think that's I like it. Based off the 2 different seasons you and I have had in capping games, because I see that and I agree with you. I think the line should be like 160, 165. And so when I see the books put at minus 135, I immediately don't trust it. So there's something up, because I have not won when I have these initial gut reactions. You've been winning. So I guess your initial reaction is, hey, this is a great find. I'm taking it. So
yeah. And I guess the other thing is, it's a bet I'm okay with losing. Like, I'm not okay with losing. I don't want to lose. We're giving out picks. If people are listening and they're taking these picks, I certainly don't want to lose. But like, it's a place where I'm okay putting my money. Like, if it doesn't come through and it's a 1-0 game, okay, still seemed like the right play at the time.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I saw this, and like I said in the match preview, I like the overs. If you hadn't taken this one, this was one of the first things that jumped off the page at me today when I was looking for pictures. Happened to get to it first. I would have definitely taken the over 2.5 here as well at -135.
All right. Well, I'll close out the week. I'm going to take another bet that Nick would feel okay losing, and that's because it's a corners over.
Oh, yeah.
Brighton over 6.5 corners versus Everton is +105. At home right now, Brighton are averaging 7.25 corners per match, so they're getting them in bunches. On the same side of the coin, we got Everton conceding a shit ton of corners away. Dice ball is in full effect. And on the road, Everton are conceding 6.75 corners per match. So you got two sides all trending over that 6.5 number. Not only that, but in the last 3 matches, Everton have actually really started to double down on dice ball. They've conceded 7, 9, and 15 corners to their opponent in their last 3 road matches. So really just trying to cluster in the box, deflect shots, and try and get on a counter every once in a while. But fully expect Brighton at home to be on the front foot for most of this. I'd be surprised if they don't get 4 or 5 in the first half alone. So even though I don't usually take corners, that's Nick's thing. I couldn't turn away from this one.
My thoughts on this game are I like Brighton on the money line. I think that's really playable. And then I saw you take this pick, and I'm like, yeah, corners could be the way to go because Everton's fighting for their life, and Brighton have been kind of inconsistent, but I wouldn't be mad if anybody took Brighton on the money line. And number 2, if anybody hasn't seen it, we have updated the official tracker for Everton's star signing Beto, who cannot promise goals, but can promise hard work. Well, he has now worked hard 15 times with 1 goal.
I can work hard. That was my best asset on the pitch in my rec league career. Very unskilled.
We can't promise winning picks, but we're working hard.
Under promise, over deliver, Nick. That's the motto.
Yeah, it makes you just look so much better, right? When you under promise and over deliver. All right, so I'm going back to my boys yet again. I've gone to them 4 times since De Rossi's taken over. Only time I didn't go to them was when they were playing Inter for good reason. I'm going Roma money line against Torino, -115. Roma's 4-1 in 5 league matches under De Rossi, with the only loss coming against Inter. The Giallorossi do play in the Europa League Thursday, but both of these matches are home, where Roma is particularly strong, with their only 2 home league losses coming against the 2 Milan sides. I like the strong home form to continue. Torino is tough. Like I said, they could be up to 7th if they beat Lazio tomorrow, which is Thursday when this pod drops. But I just like what they've been doing under De Rossi. They've been trying to attack. Torino defends well. I think it's going to be a very interesting tactical match, but I think it'll test De Rossi's tactics a bit. Obviously, mentality-wise, we'll see how they come out of Thursday against Feyenoord at home. But I'm riding him again. I'm going to keep doing it. When they keep getting numbers like this at home, I just have to keep going to it.
Yeah, I didn't look at the line, but I mean, Roma's kind of been a wagon for us, right? They're hitting, they're winning games. The team total, which has typically been over 1.5, has been money. I know I can tell you, I think I hit it 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 4 games. I took it. I think I bet it 4 out of the 5 games he's been in charge. But Torino, man, they're
hit it against Inter. So
yeah, man, they're. Torino, I think this could start to be the downfall of Torino. I think they've overplayed to this point. I mean, they're always pretty solid on defense. They're always good for an under, but I think this is where the rubber meets the road. They got a tough stretch in front of them. So, to me, I like your pick. I think if Roma wins games like this, they beat some pretty bad teams, right? If they could start beating the Torinos and above, man, De Rossi is setting himself up really nicely to stick around.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he has to finish top 4 to stick around. I think you're right. I think it has to be winning matches like this, win a couple of those head-to-heads against the teams they're competing with directly, and see where the chips fall. But I think he is doing himself a lot of favors so far.
Yeah, and the thing about finishing 4th, I mean, listen, you're already in a hole, and it's not so much about the points. You don't have to make up that many points theoretically, but you got to jump 4 teams. That's tough. That's the hard part. So,
yep.
Interesting to see what happens. I'm going to go to another team that has been good to us, and it's probably the most unexpected team of Serie A, and that is newly promoted Genoa. Taking on Udinese, I like both teams to score at even money. Genoa have hit both teams to score in 8 of their last 10 games. That is insane. That is a lot of goals for a newly promoted team. We know Udinese, they are the draw kings, so that means for this game, they will need to get at least one goal. I think Genoa have the advantage. I could definitely see both teams scoring. And this also could be a decent cards match. The line's not out yet, and I mean, take it with a grain of salt. I was very wrong on Napoli today, but I feel like this is a game that can see 5, 6, 7 cards because it should be, a little bit rough in the middle of the park.
1-1 exact score is plus 370. That this game feels like a 1-1.
Right, and that's
that's such
incredibly
an
low.
Score line. Yeah,
such
an Udinese score line. I actually liked Genoa on the money line when I saw them, and then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? I don't trust that they're going to win this match. I could definitely, if draw no bet was more like the 130, 140 range, that would have been I would have been pushing that for Podlock all day long, but I was like minus 170. But yeah, I could definitely see both teams score. I could definitely see a scoring draw here. It just feels like that with Udinese so often and Genoa. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Our pod lock, which now has moved to 15, 7, and 2 on the season, plus 6.2 units, thanks to the aforementioned Stuttgart goal flurry at the end of that match to get us to the Stuttgart and over 2.5 last weekend. We are going to Spain this weekend, and it is Atletico Madrid money line at Almeria, minus 140. Madrid are coming off that 1-0 loss to Inter in the Champions League, a match where they didn't even manage a shot on target. They head to last place, Almeria, last place in La Liga, no wins in the La Liga season for them. There's no way they can't bounce back here and be taken seriously. Like, if you don't bounce back here, there's no way you can head into the second league of the Champions League or anything else in the league season, I think, feeling anywhere good about yourself if you're Madrid. And that's why we're taking them at minus 140.
Well said.
Keep the run going.
Yeah. All right.
No, so hey, 65% on the pod lock. I mean, that was with like a 2 or 3 week losing streak. So pod lock is looking good.
Yeah. So that'll wrap up this episode. Nick, tell everybody where they can find us.
Absolutely. Obviously, you guys are listening on your favorite pod platform or you are watching us on YouTube. Either way, you can do both. Appreciate any likes and subscribes you have there. We are doing work on Patreon. So if you like the content, if you're looking for bonus bets, a couple extra episodes, written stuff, Patreon is the place. At happyhoursports.net. Scotty especially has been leading the charge there with his Premier League write-ups. So any of those places, appreciate your support. Please like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, let us know what you're taking. If you like the bets, if you have bets of your own, if you hate us, if you think we sound stupid, let us know on Twitter. Whatever it is, we appreciate the interaction and always looking to have some fun.